right, then. We shall move into the react. Signs, the beginning of your novel looks promising. I'm really interested in this because we've gone through, should you abandon your novel? And we've gone through one that's like the first chapter. So to now do one that's like, does the beginning of the book work? Because that's really where we're struggling at, is we're still not 100% sure that this is going to be the start. There's potential that there could be a different chapter 1. But I like this, so we'll see. It's on a promising beginning. Alright. Let's see what we are going to require in order to do this. We need this, a yes. We need this, a yes. We do that. We're good. Alright. Turn this off. Just gonna, actually, no, we're gonna have Tote first. Oh, gotta have Tote first, guys. Of course we do. Yeah, smell like potty. Hello, Scotty. Damn, that's a good one there. Welcome, welcome, Bomb Dropper. How's it going, bro? How are you this fine, fine day? We are about to start the reaction. This is probably going to be a longer one because we're going to be talking specifically about the book. And when we start talking about the book, guys, damn, we start talking about the book. All right. Okay, now we turn that off, do that, hit that, and we go here, and we're good. Let's get into it.
So how do you know whether the beginning of your novel works? Well, this video is kind of like a test for your novel, and if you run it through all 9 of these considerations and your novel beginning hits all 9 of them, well, there's a good chance that you have a winner on your hands.
Hell yeah.
Let's get started right away with number 1.
It's a gripping story question. Now, the question is, do you guys think that the question of whether... so, my question is... whether the person put the calm pearl there for the benefit or the detriment of Husai. Does that drive intrigue in you with the idea of you not knowing? And you could be even thinking that maybe the character doesn't remember, something happened, maybe there's a trauma, but we're going to slowly clear up the fact that it wasn't Husai, so you don't have to worry about that. That happens literally at the beginning of chapter 2 with Sid. And then they kind of go into the inauguration with this in the back of their head. Like, okay, so we could, if this is ever kind of used as blackmail against us, we have a way to refute it, in a sense, right? We have like basically a bulletproof way of refuting it. And, if the person put it there to help Husai, you would think they would give it to him directly. But maybe there's someone who's tied to something who can't give up, you know, their knowledge about it, you know? Like, this was not supposed to happen. This calm pearl was not supposed to come into the hands of Husai. It was supposed to be used in some other way. So posing that question to the character of, okay, whoever put this here had a motive, but what is that motive? But I don't know, is that gripping? I mean, there's also the fact of, oh, was that a real dragon? Like, you really play... I really abstractly play up the flames, but... Torg specifically says it's one of the lost chapels of the dragons, and it points at the dragon head. So it's clearly a dragon, so they're asking, okay, well, what the fuck? There's a dragon down there. They thought they were at the final boss, they weren't at the final boss. Well, it's like, well, how did Torg get out if no one's ever gotten out? It's like, well, no one's ever gotten out because someone's purposefully stopped them from coming out. So then the question becomes, if it wasn't Husai, who is stopping people from completing the 100-year quest? Fucking ads! We don't have ads over here on Kick, or on Rumble, or on Twitter, so fuck them ads. True Stream Hub world. Yes, I love it. I absolutely love it. That is the perfect, absolute perfect emoji. It's beautiful. Thank you. That sums up the spirit pretty fucking much right there. Hells yeah. Let's go. Take a wee talk here, guys. Let me take a wee talk. We just need a wee talk. And we'll be back. We'll be back on it, and up and over. Yeah, we're 15 seconds into the react, so yeah, this is gonna be crazy. So we have tons of questions to posit. So let's posit all the questions that we posit in chapter 1. And the question is, are any of those gripping in any way? Are we attached to any of them? If anything, the main question is, did Husai kill Torg? You know, like, I think of the deeper question of, like, who put the calm pearl there, but I doubt people will even be thinking about that. But it is something Husai will say, like, who the fuck put this here? Why would they have put it here? What could this possibly mean? Like, is this a warning, or is this a threat? And it's so abstract, it's like, what the fuck? They obviously want me to act in some way on it. Whoever put it here wants me to act on it in some way. But he doesn't know what the right decision is. Which is why he is going to grab the counsel of his friends. People he's known pretty much his entire life. Try and help him. Help him solve this problem. And like I said, there's two possibilities. There's a possibility that we never reveal who put the calm pearl there. Like, I know it was the Viceroy through Gaia in order to initiate these events that Gaia had set in motion. Because all of these are preordained events that Gaia put in motion. And there's one thing I've always wanted to do, which is prophecy. Because I fucking love prophecy when it's done correctly as a riddle that can only be solved, it literally can't be solved without being in that situation. Like, it's like the Samson riddle with, like, the I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's the beehive in the lion's corpse. It's like unless you've seen that before, it's pretty much impossible to come up with that from the description, right? So that's kind of how prophecy is, and that's how we want to use language with prophecy in the beginning of the book. And it's like, find the Warriors of Light. Well, that's extremely cryptic. Who the fuck are the Warriors of Light? Now, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, you would recognize, oh, hey, Warriors of Light are usually the most powerful warriors who are granted usually the extra powers by divine right of some kind. In this case, it's through a facilitation through genetic engineering being directly tied to the monarch's bloodline and facilitation of technology mixed with magic that makes them so unbelievably strong compared to anyone else. Even Husai. But Husai is also genetically engineered because he's his own species. Literally genetically engineered to be human. A human born from octopi. And there's still the chance of Husai's origin being a secret. Like, he is actually, like, one of the crystal beings from Gaia in, like, human form or something like that. Like, something really obscure and complicated and weird, but it reveals, like, the fourth race, which is Gaia's race that live underneath the shell and, like, help her. And they're basically pure crystal and pure magic. It was if, like, whatever was made of the tree was made out of people and was, like, alive and can move around. Because it's the solidified consciousness. Because it has no other physical body other than the pure essence of its own self. Which becomes crystallized when it's too condensed. That's kind of like the core of the planet is the crystallized Gaia. And that's why she can break out of it and has, like, a human form with it, because she's been using the fourth species inside of the planet, planning for this the entire time. That's why there's, like, this one scene where the idea of it is that there's, like, this massive statue carved out. And so you think that the dragons are large. Like, we're talking one of the eyes of Gaia is the entire size of a fucking dragon. Like, the eyes are, like, the size of, like, well, I guess the head and shoulders would be like the size of a fucking continent. Something like that. But it's carved out of the center of the planet from the core. And it's kind of like the idea of, like, I guess, like, the hands laid bare like this. And it's, like, kind of Gaia's hands and then her face. And all the characters are standing on her hands. And it's kind of like the final advancement of them becoming, you know, the ultimate power before they go and fight the monarch after they've done everything in, like, the second book. Because the second book is all about, like, Gaia, the celestial beings, the fate of the planet, the dragon's origin, and, like, getting to a level that's able to fight with something like that. Meanwhile, the entire time trying to fight off the hordes of whatever the main enemy of the monarch is, right? Whatever his armies are, or him himself, right? It's a question of, is it just going to be him and he's so strong there's no other real foe, but we don't really have anything to build up to, so there's a lot of options we can do for that, but it all comes back to, is the question itself gripping to other people? People that don't have any knowledge of how deep it could be, right? So I'd say, like, the next question would be, like, question 2 would be, did Husai kill Torg? And if not, who did? And you kind of find out how Husai knows them, because it's going to flash back and forth. So I think those would probably be, like, you have, like, the main question: did Husai kill Torg? That's the surface level one. Then you have the subtext one, which is, who the fuck could have put this comm sphere here? And then under that you would have, why did Husai choose to become the leader of the Adventurers Guild and not go on the 100-year quest. And it's almost kind of supposed to put a suspicion on Husai.
There's a gripping story question. So a story question is just something that the reader thinks when they're reading the initial pages of your book. They have a question about what's going to happen in the future. And if you know what sort of story question your readers might ask, it's just a good shortcut to know that, oh, you're going to get readers to keep reading. Let's look at some examples like The Giver by Lewis Lowry. The question it asks is, why is this seemingly perfect society so rigidly controlled? I think readers are curious about that mystery and that they want to keep reading to find out the answer to that question. Or let's look at what the question would be for Gone Girl by Gillian Flynn. One question is, what happened to Amy Dunn? That's very much a mystery. 2, is Nick telling the truth about his wife's disappearance? Now, if you can't come up with a gripping story question for the beginning of your novel, it might be a sign of one of these 3 problems. 1, you might be starting too slow. You really should have the story question arise in the first chapter. If you're waiting until chapter 3 or something, it's too late.
Yeah.
2, it might be a sign that you're starting in the wrong place. You want to start in the type of place that does raise a story question that the reader is curious about. And the third thing is, maybe you haven't figured out what this book is really about. And so you're too close to it and you don't know what the question is that your story's asking.
Oh, right. The other question was... question 3. Why has no one ever completed the 100-year quest? Exactly, like at the very, very beginning, right? When you're like announcing and saying, no one has ever gone through these doors has ever returned. But that's also foreshadowing for the Monarch, because he's the one who makes sure that no one ever leaves those fucking doors. So it always all comes back around full circle.
And maybe you just need to keep on writing, and later on you'll be able to come back and ask the right story question. And if you know your story question, please leave it in the comments, and people, let's upvote the best ones. It's also important at the beginning of your book to make sure the reader knows whose story it is.
Readers know whose story it is. Answer Husai's story.
So I want you to ask yourself right now, whose story is this? This book that I'm writing, who does the story really belong to? Often when I read the beginning of a book with a large number of characters in it, sometimes I'm left wondering, I don't know whose story this really belongs to. It can't belong to everyone. That's really not an option. There has to be at least one person that rises above the fray that is slightly more important than all the other characters in your novel. Now, if
Not
you're writing
just slightly,
person,
extremely.
well, I mean, usually it's kind of obvious. It's the first person narrator. But not always, right? Think of like Watson and Sherlock Holmes. Watson is the first person narrator, but I think everyone thinks that this book is really about Holmes. But if you're writing in third person with a bunch of different character point of views, you might need to ask yourself a few questions to figure out who the main character is. One question you can ask yourself is, who changes the most? Whoever has the biggest character arc over the course of your novel, that's often a sign that the story belongs to them. Another good question is, what character starts and ends the book? These are very privileged positions, and so when you have a character that occupies that space, it's a sign, oh, this book is really about them. A third question is, what character will accomplish the central goal? The character who accomplishes the main goal of the novel often is the most important character in the book.
Gaia,
I know that the more characters that you have, the more difficult it becomes to answer this question. I know. But if you can't answer this question, you're often going to be floundering when it comes to basic structural questions like, how do I begin my book? How do I end my book? Or like a basic question like, what is my climax? And what are the roles that my character should play in that climax? Even by the end of a series like Game of Thrones, in which it seems that there are millions of characters, it still feels like the main characters are Jon Snow and Daenerys. So there's really no excuse.
The fire and the ice.
You really need to know, who does this story belong to? to. Now, you also know that the beginning of your novel looks promising if, number 3, your protagonist has clear stakes. The reader should be able to answer what happens if your main character fails, both in terms of external stakes.
Well, in this case, it's presented, well, if the character can't prove his innocence, you know, he's gonna be charged with something called murder. So it's kind of like, oh shit, right off the bat, right? You're like, if anyone sees this, oh fuck me. And there's definitely a possibility there are copies of this shit.
Do they survive? Or is their main relationship ruined? But also a sense of their internal stakes. If they fail, do they lose a sense of their own identity? Or do they feel like they're completely morally bankrupt? And you also...
If found guilty, destroys his legacy. As basically the first, I would say, first practiced adventurer who's like the head of the Adventurers Guild. Because usually the head of the Adventurers Guild is like a government official of some kind, right? That's like, is not really actually an adventurer. Usually they're an official in Ifrit that gets, you know, because Ifrit's like the top guild, and besides the branch inside of the tree, and even the branch inside of the tree being like the main facilitator and like the library of information, so you can basically hold adventurers accountable, because that's the entire idea of what Duart's story is in the prequel, is to set up this entire structure that Husai falls into. And the last head of the Adventurers Guild was basically just someone that Duart had instilled into the guild in order to facilitate the role of bridging the Adventurers Guild to the bureaucracy of the government in order to facilitate the changes that needed to happen in order to hold people accountable. As in, like, tracking things, making sure that you actually needed, like, IDs and stuff like that for becoming an Adventurers Guild, solidifying the test to become an Adventurers Guild and a journeyman, and everything like that. It's all established basically about 50 years before Husai takes office, and Husai's been in office for about 30 years. So it's about an 80-year-old kind of system, and he's the first person who's a real adventurer that's been out there, that's been coaxed into this position because of his understanding that this position is so important to have someone like this here, because he sees, since he's been an adventurer, how it can be abused and stuff like that. So he's trying to keep his way of controlling the Adventurers Guild as best he can from the highest position. But still, at the core, he is an adventurer. So it gives him another very unique position in the book. Which is why he really doesn't feel like he fits his role, but he's not there very long. Right? And even he doesn't feel like he fits the role. He just feels that he needs to do it. But now this is forcing him out of that role. And he's like, oh, fuck. Okay, what do I do? Oh, okay, we pretend we're performing an audit. Boom. It's been like 30 years. We'd be like, you know what? We haven't gone out there yet. Let's go out there and let's just, let's see how everyone's doing and what it's been like. You know, maybe we need to update the system a little bit. We got some newcomers coming in here. We can figure this out. But things just seem to be spiraling out of control because, like, he's talking to Sid at the beginning of chapter 2 before the inauguration about this, and then they go into the inauguration, and then the fucking riot happens, and Husai's like, the world is spinning so fast. Something has been set in motion that cannot be undone. It's just fucked. Chris Ayab, yo, welcome, how are you, good sir? Today is a big lore, world building, and story setup, because we're deep diving into the beginning of the book, and the beginning of the book is very, very, very complicated in many different ways, but it's also like very, very simple. You see a video of you killing someone, and you're like, well, fuck, I didn't do that. And then you go to see the new leader basically turn all of the people against him because he made a terrible decision. And then you leave basically the city to, like, as an excuse to get the fuck out of there, you come up with some random idea about an audit. You just make shit up as you're going along. It's like, I don't know, let's do an audit. Fuck it. Sid's like, oh, why not an audit? Because Sid's the leader, or like the Grand Master of the crafting guild. So he has to go through like all the economic kind of stuff, whereas Husai doesn't have to deal with like, you know, adventurer spending or anything like that. He just has to do, oh, this adventurer is this rank, they've done these things, this is how they got to this rank, this is who they are, this is where they came from, you know, basically like their credentials and shit. And their would be accomplishments and stuff, because it's a log of all of the quests that have been done as well. And then there's, like, you know, the giant quest of the 100-year quest. Quest has never been done. These are the parameters for it. Build up to it. Still no one can win. Now it's 150 people. Okay, answer if he loses is he's arrested for murder. Answer if he succeeds... he will expose who tried to do this to him. That's the goal. Because that's the entire goal up until Zaid's death when you learn about the Monarch, is he's trying to figure out what the hell is going on here. And even with the Viceroy in his grasp, he still doesn't understand. And at least until book 2.
Also need to have clear stakes set out from the very beginning of what happens when your character actually succeeds. What do they get? What do they earn? What's the payoff? Now, if you don't have a good answer in the beginning of your novel for what happens if the main character succeeds or fails, then usually it means you haven't started the story fast enough. If you are waiting for a third of the way through your book or halfway through the book to finally tell the reader, like, oh, these are the high stakes of the story, I think that's much too late. For an example of this, let's look at The Secret History by Donna Tartt. In the first page and a half, I kid you not, the first page and a half, she has very clearly laid out the stakes of this entire extremely long novel. The external stakes are really clear. If the police are able to pin the murder on them,
hey, that's mine!
They will all go to jail. But
it's in a very abstract, fantastical world.
If he can't get over this murder, then this is going to haunt him.
Yep.
And
yep.
He's not going to be able to go on with his life.
Yep.
And by the way, please like this video because it makes my heart very happy. And subscribe if you haven't.
True.
Because people are always telling me in the comments, like, you don't have enough subscribers. And I'm like, man, I haven't been even doing this a year, but thank you.
Yeah, I know, right? What, 100? You don't have enough. He's at 131K subscribers. Like, what the fuck?
You also know that
you don't have enough subscribers. Fucking, I love people's, like, mentality towards that, dude. Oh, you have to have a lot of subscribers to be popular. Like, popularity and numbers being what drive people to content, to me, is just so brain dead. Because I never use the algorithm to get, like, a topic or something. Like, when I'm on YouTube, I'm very specifically looking for something. And it's usually the algorithm plays within, like, my 4 channels, like fucking PBS Spacetime, Oompaville, Asmongold, Penguins, and... it's another, like, random one. Like Veritasium, or Smarter Every Day, or a couple of other, like, science channels and stuff like that, right? Or, like, I don't even have any, like, reading or writing ones on, like, the other YouTube that actually isn't for the stream. It's on my other PC. But yeah, good to know that our stakes exactly match the stakes of another story, but in a completely fantastical and different way, right?
Of your novel looks promising if, number 4, you use a mix of showing and telling. So you
use a mix of show and tell. All right.
Probably heard the advice before, like, oh, you should start with like a scene, which is basically showing. And that's not terrible advice. I just want to expand your notion of what the novel can do. The novel is a very expansive form. You can take a lot of different approaches to it. And so I don't want to make you think like, oh, I have to do all showing in my first chapter. No, I mean, I think it's just as easily. You could do a mix of showing and telling, any sort of mixture. You could do 95% showing and 5%.
The show. Okay, this is perfect because this is how it's supposed to be set up. The showing part is the video that Husai is watching. The telling part is inside of Husai's mind, being like, "Oh, that's that character from my old party," or like announcing the troubadours, and he's like, well, this is my old party, that's me standing up on stage saying good luck to everyone during this speech, like, it shows how important he is in his station, that he's with literally one of there's 3 people standing there, 4 people, because Sid is with him, it's him, Sid, the Monarch, and the Viceroy, all standing there cheering on and telling this adventurers group. And then, I kind of want small things like shout-outs to Husai, and then Aetharg being like a new type of speech at the beginning of Aetharg saying, we all know Husai is our leader. Something like that. And that would be maybe a mix of the tell in with the show, but maybe that's not something, maybe he needs to do that, but there is definitely a showing and telling differential between what is shown on the video and what he's watching and what's inside of Husai's head. So, show from the video Husai is watching, tell from the insight from inside Husai's mind from first person POV. So we do have a mix of both. And that's where we get the exposition thrown in too, where we just kind of get a little bit of lore dump. But if, like, again, if you have any concept of like anime or video games or Final Fantasy or anything like that, it should basically instantly click how the beginning is. And it's like, oh, okay, I totally get what's happening here. It's like the tutorial at the beginning of the game. You're way level ahead. It shows you the mechanics, gets you interested in the mechanics of what could possibly be in the future, and gives you a storyline to follow based upon that those mechanics. And again, like we said, it always comes back full circle. The weapon that they're fighting, the dragon, Fafnir, Emerald Weapon, all very, very, very important things. Even if the 100-Year Quest, the satellite itself isn't important, it connects to all the other satellites. So my thought is completing the 100-Year Quest and getting it up and running is how they find Atomus. A good clue always leads to another clue. And it's like, well, if this is the satellite connected to everything, how do we find, and then thinking about, like, learning about how these things were built and stuff, it's like, well, what about something like a factory, right? Especially the thing about, like, the tanks and the machinery and stuff like that attacked at Garuda, right? We've kind of gotten past this point of understanding where some characters have gotten, there is a little bit of technology in the world, it's just not advanced, right? So you kind of have guns, but you don't really have guns? but you have technology, but you don't really have technology because it's a lot mixed in with magic and used with magic to facilitate its workings, right? Like, you would use a magic instead of gunpowder to fire a gun. That's kind of the idea of it, is everything is kind of magic tech, right? And that's how you use magic in everyday solutions. So I thought of things that are, oh, what it, why was this developed? What was the reason for this thing being developed in reality? Like, look at a sword. What's the reason for people learning how to make swords? Well, to fight. Do people fight? Yes. Okay, well, we checked off swords. Swords should just naturally be made because they're the inevitable outcome of people trying to fucking kill each other. And that's where you get all your basic weaponry from, right? And then from there you go, okay, well, how do we facilitate a fucking ads? Wait. Fuck ads. Guys, I think we should definitely say fuck ads. Because I don't believe in ads. Guys, if I don't believe in ads, does that mean ads aren't real? Can we do that? Can we just all collectively believe that ads don't exist? And then we don't have to worry about them being real? Because belief is what makes existence, right? And if we just all believe hard enough, I think maybe we could just eliminate ads from existence. I don't know about you guys. But that's like the road I'm going down, you know? Alright, we back. Okay. Think we're good now.
I'm telling you, you could do half and half. And for an example of this, let's look at The Hobbit by Tolkien. The first few pages of this book are telling. He's telling us about this hobbit and what his hole is like and what the Shire is like. And then the book transitions into showing, where we have Gandalf come along and talk to Bilbo, and they blow smoke rings, and Gandalf invites him on an adventure. So please, please, please don't trap yourself into this little box of thinking like, oh, like all of my first chapter needs to be showing. I have to have lots of scenes. I think the advantages of telling in the beginning of your novel is sometimes it can accelerate our knowledge of a character, like we feel we get to know them very quickly if you just have a couple lines telling us about who they are. I also think telling helps to orient the reader quickly. It also helps to pick up the pace at the beginning of a novel. And the pace is so important, especially at the beginning of a novel. Telling allows you to skip over the boring stuff and summarize it really quickly. And by the way, if you need more help with your novel, check out my course, Write Your Best Novel in Bookfox Academy. It's helped thousands of other writers, and I think it might help you too, so check it out. The fifth sign that you are starting your novel well is you sound like a person.
You sound like a person. Okay. Okay.
So when someone begins a novel, they want to feel a voice on the other end of it, like a human voice. In other words, not an AI.
I never do that. I have voices in my head, and then I mimic those voices in real life. Like you got that damn shit, right? Or like the, oh yeah, buddy, we gotta go out and do that. It's gonna be a good time. Let's get it. Let's go. Yup. So it's like I have fun with voices in my head. So I enjoy doing that when I'm reading. But The problem with doing that on stream is I'd literally have to, like, have an idea of what the character was, because I'd never use the same voice for the same character, and it'd be so confusing. I'd just be using random voices.
Voice, not a nondescript voice, not a Wikipedia entry voice. You want to be a person on the page. You want to take your original voice and just cast it onto the page so that someone reading it could tell, oh, that sounds like so-and-so. So now it's time for a pop quiz. I'm going to give you a single sentence from an author. A sentence
I have
full
no idea
of
about authors.
Voice. It definitely sounds like this author. And your task is to tell me who it is in the comments. And because the voice is so strong in this single sentence, I bet most of you are gonna know who this is. If you really want to hear about it, the first thing you'll probably want to know is where I was born and what my lousy childhood was like and how my parents were occupied and all before they had me and all that David Copperfield kind of crap. But I don't feel like going into it if you want to know the truth. So why is there so much voice in this single sentence? One, it's kind of confrontational. Oh,
I
what,
feel like that's the guy that we're reading,
well,
and that's
you
the
know what?
beginning
I
of
don't wanna
Choke.
tell
I'm
you.
like,
Two,
wait,
it's
what?
kind
That's
of
so weird.
negative.
But it's
There's
not.
words like
It starts with
lousy,
mommy,
there's words
right?
like crap, and he says,
But I'm
like,
like,
listen, I don't want to talk. Three, I think it is very intimate. He is speaking directly to the reader. And then four, there's this sort of swinging colloquialism about this. This is not highfalutin literature. He has phrases like, we're occupied and all. You know, it feels very almost slangy. Your goal in the beginning of the book, whether it's first person or third person really, is to come up with a kind of voice that is distinctive to you. So the reader can feel that it is a person telling the story and not a robot. And now it's time for the next way that you know your novel is starting off well. Number 6, each...
Okay, so I'm not sure about the voice because, you know, chapter 1's still a little bit iffy. But I'm pretty sure, I don't know, you guys tell me, do I have a distinct voice? Oh, shit. I don't know. I think I'm just way too all over the place. Beekeeper, good! Thank you for the follow! Welcome, welcome! How are you? Are you a writer? Are you a reader? Are you a purveyor of ideas? Do you enjoy? I can probably pick it out, but that's from sheer exposure. Okay. So it needs to be defined more, right?
Why are you smoking?
Maybe.
What? When did you start smoking?
1989-ish?
So you have been lying. It all makes sense. The filled ashtrays, the burning pine-scented hairspray.
Yes, I'll say it. Her 3-pack-a-day voice?
Okay, so imagine it starting like this, Levi. Okay, let's pull up chapter 1 and let's do like an on-the-spot rewrite cuz I have an idea in my head. That's not what I want. I want this. This is the final one, right? Yeah, so the best, yeah, it's coming around the corner, bro. I thought to myself as I settled into my chair, this damn desk. Ugh. This desk, man. That blank paper lying there, taunting me. I've always been better at improvising than writing speeches. Drumming my fingers on the desk. Ugh. Feels so weird and odd. Leaning back. What is that, what is... Huh? Something catches my eye. Is that a calm pearl? I look around to see if anything's moved around in the room. Don't look to no one been in here. Well, I scoff. No harm. I initiate the calm pearl. A little bit excited, not sure what to expect. I know, but I'm obviously way over exaggerating it. to like prove a point, right? It's like that's like the essence of it, and then you cut that down, right, and make it a lot more readable. But it has that aspect to it, as opposed to like this more structure. But then if you look at the character, there's two aspects to the character, which is his logical functionality and his like want to quick response. It's like the 3-step response. First response is emotional, so that one you want to throw away. Second response is usually logical, but it's not fully thought through. Then the third thought usually occurs after about 20-25 seconds, and that's like the complete conclusion. And that's usually how his thought process works with things. And that's why he's good at improvising, because once he takes all the information in, he just immediately builds a plan out of it. And it's like, you can say that takes a long time, but 25 to 35 seconds to like come up with a plan that can change the outcome of a battle, that's the reason why he's the fucking leader of the Adventurers Guild. So he has that kind of logical essence to his thinking, but I don't know about his presentation. There are bits where it feels like it's being written in a mind that isn't whose size. That's definitely what I need to work on there, Levi, is keeping the idea of the narration and everything all inside of that singleized voice, and not having, the idea of, I thought to myself. Like, there's no reason to even have that there, right? Obviously, it's me thinking to myself. So this is just, like, obvious, old habits that I might still have, but I don't know. Because, again, this was written and edited in February. It was written in October, edited a little bit in February. Haven't really gone back to it since. So, it's still pretty old compared to, like, what we've grown to now. So, like, I'd love to rewrite Chapter 1, but we're going to be going into our art arc in October for, like, 3 months or so. So we're going to be focusing mainly on that. Just, like, adding it in, right, as just an extra section to the stream. Which will push the writing back just a little bit as well, but we'll still do writing. But we want to do writing along with the art, right? And kind of do something like really, 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 really short stories and start grinding down plots to small scope and small scale, like 2 or 3 scenes, like short scenes, like 500, 600 words, not the 5,000 to 10,000 word monstrosities that we've been kind of gotten ourselves into. Alright, number 6. Each scene has multiple purposes. Well, we haven't even really broken them down that badly. Mysterious object feels like a weird way of describing an identified object, like how you'd say if presenting the story around a campfire trying to build intrigue. Usai seems like he should be giving it a more sincere account. One of the things, Levi, is that in the back of his head, he thinks this is a prank of Zaid. Hey, book buyer! How's it going? Welcome, welcome. I tried to raid you, but you weren't live! And then I tried to raid you again, and then you weren't live! And I was like, well, what the fuck? How's it going? No worries, you don't have to be sorry. I was just... it just happened to be within the time frame that you said you were streaming, so I was like, hey, first thing I'm gonna do is see if Book's online. I was like, oh, sad face. You're just building hype. I've been having difficulty streaming. Don't worry about it, Book. It's all good. I'll pop in and I'll catch one of them one day, one of these days. But yeah, having Kusai's view of this, because of the prologue, because of what happens in the prologue, with Zaid. Husai's first thought of this is, God damn it, Zaid. As if, like, this kind of shit has happened before, or something like this has happened before. But then, as soon as he sees Tor, he's like... And that's why he gets up and literally puts, like, the impenetrable wall on the door. I might be getting a job, so I'll have to figure out a new schedule if I get the job. I just applied. Ooh, hopefully you get it, book buyer. At least if you want it, you know. That would be a good thing, right? What kind of job? So let's say, like, scene 1. I do and I don't. I feel that book. When is this being written from? Like, in terms of Husai's character arc? It's written at... Starting right now, Hildebrandt is kind of right in the fact of thinking that Husai is kind of a grumpy old man who's been locked up inside of this building too long, and he needs a bit of fresh air. So, like, it's getting to the point of the straw that broke the camel's back, of all these small things adding up over these 30 years to almost, like, driving him insane, because he's just not the sort of... And this is where it's supposed to set out the idea of, like, he's not supposed to be, like, a bureaucrat. He's not supposed to be filing out paperwork. He's supposed to be out in the world fighting monsters, finding discoveries. But it's kind of the idea that the last bastion of discovery is the 100-year quest, and yeah, we know what happened with that. So that's kind of where we look at Husai here. So he's kind of this jaded, middle-aged, slightly older, he's like 55, 45, 55, kind of around there. But he's in, like, you know, really good shape, kind of shit like that, right? He always practices, he's always practicing with everyone else and stuff, always keeping his mind sharp, but it's just the bureaucratic nature of being the leader of the Adventurers Guild that kind of has been wearing him down. So, you know, and he's been noticing since, like, the prologue and stuff that Zaid has been, like, letting loose a little bit more with his pranks and, like, you know, his structure of what he's doing, or kind of trying to push Husai. And it's, like, irritating Husai, but he understands, like, why Zaid's doing it. Building manager. I want a flabby dude for once. All these fit guys. Well, book buyer, the idea is that it's because of his class, his job, right? He's like a berserker. He's a two-handed berserker. So there's a reason for that. But then look, book buyer, that's why we have gluttony. This is what gluttony looks like. You say, like, this is the beak, right? And the way that their beak is structured is it doesn't you know, you have, like, the long ass feather things coming off, and then you have, like, the neck, and then, you know, shoulders. He's got his wings coming out off his back, right? And then he's got the torso into the body. He's like, bleh, bleh. He is one fat fuck. He's like 400 pounds. So if this, hold on, if this is what an avian is supposed to look like, I got a good one here. Okay, let's do this. If this is what an avian is supposed to look like, right? Oh, can I not do it? Hold on, let me undo that. He'd be a lot bigger than that. A lot bigger than that. Like, he's fucking huge. He is so fat, he can't fly. So I do have a character like that, book. Such art. Thanks, Tyler. Yeah. Set the globo globa glooba glob and glooba glab. Glob 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 and gloob glab glab. True. But yeah. Not the main character. I mean, he's one of the 3 main characters, but Husai's the main character through circumstance of birth. Gluttony and Various are circumstance of Husai. But I see what you mean. The main character is a fully buffed out, fucking ripped, 6'3" fucking He-Man. Arnold Schwarzenegger. Fucking long blonde flowing hair. Fucking Fabio hair. Fucking... Yeah. He's just like me for real. So the multi-purposes of scene 1 is to establish that Husai was there. Husai chose a different path. Husai never knew what happened to them. I'm the bird avian thing. Avian? Truly? Whoops, I can't spell. We shall see. Oh, I'm an orc. Fuck. Okay. Well, I mean, it was bound to be, right? I mean, yesterday was yesterday, but today is today. It's not yesterday, that's for sure. Shit, man. Up in the ante on that. Tonberry, there you go, book buyer. Get everyone's grudge on your side. More damage people do to people, the more damage you do to them, using everyone's grudge. You can one-shot endgame bosses with it as a blue mage spell.
Scene has multiple purposes. Single-purpose scenes are a little bit like single-purpose plastic. They are bad for the environment of your novel. Look, your goal is to have every single scene, especially the scenes at the beginning of your novel, because they're so important. Your goal is to have them accomplish multiple things, not just one thing. A scene can advance the plot, it can develop character, it can accomplish world building, it can raise the stakes. So I want you to squint at the first, say, 3 or 4 scenes in your novel and be like, what are you really doing? Are you accomplishing multiple things? Because if not, maybe you need to combine those scenes, or maybe you need to throw one out and focus on the one that's doing multiple things at once. Let's look at the first scene in A Wrinkle in Time, written by Madeleine L'Engle. This scene is accomplishing so much. One,
I don't know what the fuck. I thought something was moving behind you. Did you see the shadow book? There's a shadow person that lives behind me. Has the fun been had today? Yes, it has, Sean. It very much has. We are going in-depth on the beginning of the book and putting it to the test. And so far, we have passed every test with flying colors. So, yeah.
Of character building. Charles Wallace is obviously way too smart for...
Has Sinister popped in recently? No, I haven't seen Sinister since he said to not read his short stories. Well, he didn't want me to read them while he was here. But I didn't want to read them while he's not here. So we're kind of in limbo with that. We were also supposed to do a podcast. But yeah, book buyer, did you hear about the podcast? We want to start doing something aside from the stream, maybe once a month. Doing like a author's corner, get to know the author, like a one-on-one sit down on Discord as just like an audio thing. Where we just, talk about our lives, how we became writers, the reason why we're writers, and it's, just kind of a one-on-one between me and whoever wants to do it, right? Because Sinister brought up the idea, because he was like, oh, you want to do, like, a podcast, like, kind of, like, collab, like, interview style kind of thing. How are the sales on Amazon? No sales, but some pages have been read. My brother bought Dad's cat today, so I didn't get to bed until noon, so my day is borked. Oof. Brutal, Sean. Just more pages read. On the 4th and then the 6th. But that's it. No one bought any copies of Shadows of the Soul. No, even when it was free. It, yeah. Didn't do so well. So, we gotta go back to the smut. And, yeah, we gotta work on the smut. Which we wrote yesterday a alien slime, like, impregnation kind of story. It ended with her giving birth to, like, alien larvae. And then turning the dude into a fucking zombie. And they were just basically, like breeding hosts for the alien larva. Interesting, yep. Yep. Always gotta have that strange, fucked up part at the end, right? But I mean, the whole time, it's like they're fucking around with this slime that makes you super horny when you touch it. So. But yeah. Always gotta write some very good smut going on Werewoman Days. Still love my idea. I've been working away at the planning. Oh, that's so good, book buyer. I'm so happy that you are engaged in it. I am so excited to see it when it's ready.
For his age, and the way he speaks sounds like a 40-year-old, not like a youngster. 2, we get some plot going on. We have a stranger swing into the scene, Mrs. Whatsit, and it's revealed she lives in this haunted house out in the woods. And then 3, there's some world building, because everyone's wanting to know, what exactly is a tesseract? That's a scene that's accomplishing so much, and honestly, I could have probably picked any book off my bookshelf and looked at the first scene and realized how much work it's doing. So just check your first scene and ask whether it's accomplishing everything you want it to accomplish. Now, the 7th sign that the beginning of your novel looks promising is there's emotional friction. You know what? Readers gotta feel something. No amount of heady intellectual ideas.
Yep. And that's why we kill a whole ton of people and Husai learns the fate. He pretty much knew they were dead, but he never had any closure. So I loved the idea of the contrast, and this is the part of the beginning, like the first chapter, that shows the duality of the theme of the story, which is the beginning of the story starts with the end, which is the closure that Husai gets by seeing all of his friends die, so he knows that they're dead. But that unravels just so much more stuff. And that's kind of how we play with the theme the entire way through, right? Nothing is quite as it seems, because reality and wishes and naivety are very, very separate things. Thinking about the world in one way, but the world is always another. That's why we want to present like 3 or 4 different possible outcomes presented through characters, and then have an event that solidifies which one of those characters is right, or if none of those characters were right, by enacting that experiment in some way and seeing what the result is, and being like, oh, well, it actually does this instead of that, right?
Ideas can substitute for the heart. So just ask yourself really quick, when my reader finishes, say, chapter 1 or chapter 2, what is the emotion I want them to be feeling? If you can't come up with the answer to that question, it's a good sign that you've...
I want them to feel regret. I want them to feel loss. I want them to feel compassion. And I want them to feel closure. But I also want them to feel like contempt and anger. Want to read one of my favorite scenes so far? Yes, book buyer. I would absolutely love to. Confusion. What else would there be? It's like 200 words or 500 something in that range. I'm down. We're just about to get an ad break in a sec here, book buyers. So just drop it in the Discord. Wait till the end of the ad break, and then we'll read it. Anxiety about what does this mean now? And it should kind of be in like that order, right? Like you feel the regret of Husai not going along. You feel the loss as you see them like working together and dying. You see the compassion in Husai as he's watching, you know, crying over his fucking friends dying. Then the closure of him knowing that. The contempt that whoever put this here had to have done it for a reason. The anger that he would never be able to, that he wants to find out who did this. But we'll figure it out. Now, again, whether that happens or not, but that is just the structure of how I want it to feel, right? Can we make it in time? No. Not really. We tried, though. So, anger that someone would like put him through having to watch that, confusion at the purpose of its placement, and anxiety for what comes next. But I was gonna say, I've been watching some old movies lately, like, you know, between 80s and 90s, just like old modern movies, nothing like crazy, you know, like Good Will Hunting and Fracture, The Prestige. I guess those ones aren't really 90s. I don't know when Fracture came out. It was a little bit later. But kind of older movies, right? To get into the weeds of the storytelling, right? Because normally I'd just like watch Quentin Tarantino movies for like how does he build his stories, right? That's usually what I try to base it off of. But I want these, like, I've noticed this one thing of like having this really important character that's not really in the forefront but helps a lot in the plot. And there's usually like one very specific scene out of like maybe 5 scenes in the entire movie with this one character that makes you basically fall in love with the character over some extremely like emotional moment between two people. And that's kind of what I want with like Husai and Hildebrandt after the fall of like their defeat at the hands of Fafnir the second time. When she's like, yeah, I can't do this anymore. This is too much for me. Right? And then she's like, I just want to be a crafter. But she doesn't have anywhere to go back to. So. Oh, sorry. The fight at Garuda. I said Fafnir. I meant Garuda. The battle at Garuda. I was thinking about Fafnir. because before that, she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then basically they have the conversation, and that kind of breaks all the walls and everything, right? And I don't know if this is where things are going to slowly start to change in the perspective of Husai, because he did that, but it makes it like this parting moment of this character that's been there since literally, because Yap, Hildebrandt, and Walker are like the first three adventurers you meet. They're like the first three other characters you meet besides Husai, Varius, Gluttony, and Zaid, and Sid, and the Monarch and the Viceroy, and like the concubines and stuff like that. The higher end political figures that are just there for bureaucratic purposes, right? The structure of the tree and everything like that.
Prioritize the puzzle-making pieces of your novel, setting things up, but you haven't yet engaged their emotions, and that's absolutely key to draw them into the story. Let's look at Bonnie Garmus's book, Lessons in Chemistry. Before Elizabeth Zott became a star of her own cooking show, she was facing this workplace sexism, and this is in the 1960s. We know that this character is fiercely intelligent, but she's not been given a chance to show off her intelligence. And so as readers, we feel an enormous amount of frustration with what she's suffering. Right away, we are emotionally on her side, sympathetic towards her. And if you want more about how to incorporate emotions into your novel, watch my video on why 90% of authors fail to connect with their readers. I talk a lot about emotional hooks and how to engage the reader's emotions, so take a look at that if you haven't already. I'll put a link in the description. And here is the 8th check for the beginning of your novel. You want to make sure that characters make me
Posted? Awesome. Heavy scent of incense mixed with spilled wine and sweat hung thick in the chamber. Laughter and music swirled around the gilded room like smoke, but beneath the gaiety lurked a deeper, darker pulse. Hyejin lounged on a silk cushion, her eyes sharp and gleaming as she watched Yonsengan stagger through the crowd, his mind unraveling inch by inch. She leaned closer, her voice a velvet whisper, threading through the cacophony. They mock you, my king. They betray you with every glance. Yonsengyun's gaze snapped to hers, wild and unsteady, his fingers curled into fists, trembling as a flush of crimson spread across his cheeks. Courtier nearby faltered, spilling his cup, drawing Yonsengun's fury like a spark to tinder. Without hesitation, the king lunged, grabbed the man by the collar, and yanking him close. A blade gleamed suddenly in his hand, cold and unforgiving. With a single brutal motion, the head rolled from the body, landing on the lacquered floor with a sickening thud. Silence crushed the room for a heartbeat before screams erupted. Hyejin's smile was slow, cruel, triumphant. Purge them, she breathed. All of them. Damn, book. That gets you really the fuck in there. Hell yeah. Characters make meaningful choices. Ooh, this is a big one. This is a big one, guys. I think we might fail this one. Characters make meaningful choices. Ooh. There's not a lot of choice here. But then again, so this isn't in the first chapter. This is just the beginning of the book, right? So this will be like the character makes a meaningful choice at the end of chapter 2 and the end of chapter 3. But not necessarily at the end of chapter 1. I see boobies. Are you talking about the background?
Meaningful choices. You want to make sure that your main character is actively making decisions that drive the story forward, and they're not sort of like sitting back passively and allowing the story to...
Well, that's the thing is, leaving the tree is Husai's big, choice. Gathering his old friends to create a barrier to protect him. He's kind of doing this in a selfish way because he's like, well, everyone knows me. Everyone knows I wouldn't do this. Everyone was there, and I can even like prove that I was like here, so I have an alibi for it. But it's still like I'd like to have everyone on my side. So let's just go gather everyone up and see what we can do. Now, the question becomes, did he send word beforehand? I don't think he did. I think he's just being random about it. He's being like, the whole point of it is to, it's like a secret audit, so he doesn't want anyone to know that he's gone. But then it's like, again, everything unravels so fast that just kind of gets so pushed into the background that it becomes, again, this huge battle and struggle to, like, basically survive at the first, like, quarter of the book. And then everything turns around, and it's like, oh, fuck, man, we gotta get the fuck out of here. This ain't happening. This ain't happening.
happen to them. Now, I know there could be a counter argument to this that says it's much more important at the end of your novel to make your character active rather than at the beginning of the novel. Beginning of the novel, they can be a little bit passive as something like happens to them, and then the whole novel is them figuring out what to do. Okay, I mean, decent counter argument. That is true. That's true. But I would say if it is possible in your story to make your main character active in the beginning, you should do it. You should take advantage of that. Let's look at Divergent by Veronica Roth. Triss has an enormous choice to make in the beginning of this novel. Will she stay with her family in the Abnegation faction, or will she instead choose the Dauntless faction? And because she worries that she's not selfless enough and that she has this very adventurous streak inside of her, she does make the very important choice to choose Dauntless. And I think the book would be completely different if she was just shuffled into Dauntless rather than being forced to make a decision. It gives her so much more personal responsibility. It definitely shapes her character. It creates a huge rift with her family because they feel like she's abandoning them. And it also creates this struggle about her identity. Who is she? Who is she as a person? So if it is at all possible, make your characters make an important and key decision at the beginning of your book. And last but definitely not least, number 9.
So first decision is, okay, well, we're not technically backing up the Beastmen, but we kind of are. Because his problem is that he wants, like, he's not against the Beastmen. He's not a fanatic against the Beastmen. He wants to, like, live in tandem with them. But letting them be adventure, like, letting them in the tree, okay, maybe that's one thing. Letting them officially be adventurers, ooh, that makes things really tricky. That makes things really tricky. Anyone who says, like, I'm the head of the Adventurers Guild, and I've never heard anything about this. What the fuck is going on? And he never really gets the chance to pull the Viceroy aside, because he gets ambushed by the ex-Viceroy that just stepped down and be like, hey, let's go out there and do shit. And he's like, well, what about that? And he's like, I'm done with that. Fuck that. Today was my last day, bro. I'm out. And his guy's like, yeah, I mean, fair enough, right? It's like, that's my kid, but fuck, man, he fucked things up. This is not good.
The story promises what it delivers. Okay.
Story promises what it delivers. Wait, did I read that right? I feel like I read that wrong.
Definitely not least, an important, and the story promises.
Why can't I see Kick Chat? 'Cause there is no Kick Chat. See it now? There's no one over there. I mean, Bomb Dropper came in and said, "You smell like potty, hello, Scotty." And then we had Beekeeper Good, said, "Yeah," and then we were discussing things, said it's good. And then Streamlab, or StreamHub World, did a emote with the wig on. Not today, not so far. Smokey just pops in occasionally. He's probably AFK farming his points because he used all of his points doing 14 chair dances in a row yesterday, as proven. So now I have the clip to go back to be like, if he ever says shit, I can just pull that up and be like, yeah, so you don't do this? Here's you doing it 14 times in a row. Bitch, that's why you don't have any points.
Thank you for redeeming chair dance. Itox will now dance for you.
I mean,
Please
fair
only
enough. It was a
enjoy
good
the
day
immersive
for it because I was
experience.
dressed up, shaking my tits and all. But you know, we were trying to be progressive, and 3 times is enough. That's 3 minutes of dancing. Now do that in another 5 minutes, but don't do 14 back to back. You know, like if you do one every 3 minutes, that at least gives me somewhere to go with the stream. But if you just spam it, it's like, what are you doing? But I totally understand, because that's what Smokey is. He's purposefully doing it.
You did good, you can rest now, babe.
Woo! Oh, but I think you'll like this one. We got this one from yesterday, book. Wait, where is it? Wait, is it in general chat? Yeah, okay, here we go. Smokey made this. Yep. I fucking love it. If I could, I'd put it as my profile picture, but I can't. So sad. So the story promises what it will deliver. Okay. Let's see here. Let's see if this is what I'm thinking
is what it delivers. Okay, this is not a throwaway point. You might hear that and be like, well, of course my story promises what it delivers. But I have to say that as an editor, many times I have read the first half of a novel and it is separated, radically separated sometimes, from the second half of the novel. Now, why does this happen so often? Well, novel writing is a long process. And over the course of that process, you change as a writer.
Yep.
You become a different type of writer. And often your vision for the book
changes.
can sometimes change in subtle ways or in quite radical ways.
Quite
so
radical.
How do you solve this problem? Just make sure that if you set up a quest, then the rest of the book is going on that quest. If you set up an antagonist, don't drop that antagonist. Make sure that antagonist continues for the rest of the book. If you talk about an inner conflict in the first chapter or two, make sure that inner conflict is something that is haunting the character for the rest of the book. In other words, you're trying not to fake your reader out. The first few chapters of your novel are a promise to the reader. Hey, this is what this book is.
This book is about finding the Warriors of Light in a tablet, unraveling the past, and discovering that you are something more than you want to admit.
About. Do not break that contract. So out of those 9, how did you do? I hope you did pretty well. You got most of them, if not all of them.
True.
You can go ahead and post your scores in the comments if you.
Exactly, right? Alright, another video down, guys. Go give Bookfox a view, a like, a subscribe. Go support the channel. He's fucking amazing. He is our means to writing. And it looks like we have a promising beginning, guys. So we've passed pretty much every single test, which I think is fucking amazing. Now the question is, where's Callie? We have one more chapter. I want to finish Butterflies with Vertigo so bad. I want to know what the fuck happens. Callie's blue-balling me by not being here. I must summon him somehow.